Hey everyone, how's it going? So what am I working on now? Well, I have a 93 Chevy 1500 pickup truck with a 5.7 that got towed in for a no start. It was a crank no start. So I went out to it, I turned the key, and it started cranking. And initially I got like a little burble, like it fired just slightly. I was just like, okay. These things are notorious for the distributors going bad. So at first I was thinking maybe it's a bad distributor. But when I heard that burble, that little, like that sputter, like it wanted to start, I was like, probably not a distributor. So then I put my foot to the floor on the gas pedal. Now, this has throttle body fuel injection. On fuel injected cars, and I don't know of any car that doesn't have it, but I'm pretty sure there's probably something out there that doesn't have it. There's a feature, not a feature, but it's built into the programming of the system, called clear flood, meaning if the engine gets flooded, you hold your foot to the floor and it shuts the fuel injectors off. So it allows you to crank it and clear out a flood situation, a fuel flood situation. Obviously, if you decided to 20,000 leagues under the sea flood your car with water, it's not going to help anything. I'm talking flooding from fuel. Okay. So I held my foot to the floor, cranking it, and then it started, and then eventually it fired and ran like poop, ran real bad, but it blew a ton of black smoke out, and it started clearing up. I let it like idle, and then I was holding the idle up around 1,500, 2,000 RPM, and it started. It cleared up, got much better. So I'm like, all right. I pretty much knew what the problem was going to be at that point because I've run into this numerous times before. So I was like, I bet you anything it's a coolant temp sensor. How can a coolant temperature sensor do that? Okay, when a coolant temperature sensor gets shorted, usually it'll default to like 278 degrees or 288 degrees, something like that, if it gets shorted. If it goes open, usually it'll default to a negative 40 degrees. Usually. Think about that for a second. Negative 40 degrees. If the computer thinks that thing's at negative 40 degrees, it's going to want to run rich. Okay? Let me show you the spark plugs I took out of this thing. Now, we already did give it a tune-up. But this is just 4 of the spark plugs. And see how sooted up they are? So, it's not that they're that old, but they're pretty sooted up. I mean, not that they're that old, not that they're that worn is what I should have said. They're pretty sooted up, but look how, they've been in there a while, okay? But they're all sooted up. So this thing's been running rich for a while. So anyway, coolant temperature sensor is right here. And I actually had a vehicle when I was at Joe and Mo's doing the same thing as this one. And I made a video on that one. However, that one I was making a video when I discovered what the problem was. This one I already discovered the problem. We already tuned it up and that, but I haven't fixed the problem just yet. So it'll start and run right now, but the problem is still there. So coming down here, there's a coolant temperature sensor. Right there. Notice something? The outer part of the sensor is gone. See that? So now we have a shot connector and a shot sensor. So we are going to change this connector end and we're going to change the sensor. Oops, the sensor, where, there you are. So, now let me see if I can get you in a spot where you can actually watch me. Don't know if I can, but let's try it. So there's the coolant temperature sensor right there. Tuck a little wiring out of the way. All right, okay, so there's the sensor right there. It's a 19 millimeter. And there it broke free. All I'm using is just a standard ratchet. Get it loose. Now the new sensor right here, as you see, it has sealer already on the threads. And there we are losing some coolant. So we're going to swap this. I don't know if you can actually see that, but there's coolant coming out on the bottom there. I don't want to disturb this camera too much. Yeah, hardly anything's coming out. So now we're going to screw the new one down. And you feel a point where it gets tight. Don't go bananas and make it too much tighter than that. Just kind of stop and be done. All right, so the sensor's in. Let me show you that real quick. Sensor's in. You see I lost some coolant, not a lot, but there's the new sensor in place. So now we're going to change this connector end. Now what I did use was this kit. It's the only one available to me, readily available to me at the moment. It was a Duralast, and it came with the pigtail. So here's the pigtail. Now you don't have to worry about adding more wire. It doesn't really matter for this. I'm not going to add this much. I'm going to cut this in half and just cut this off right there. And also, it doesn't matter the position of the wire on a 2-wire sensor. It could go either way. I hear people all the time say, oh no, it does make a difference. No, it does not. On a 2-wire sensor, it makes no difference. If it's a 3-wire sensor, then it makes all the difference in the world. If you got a 3-wire sensor, do not mix them up. This one, you can mix it up. It does not matter. Let me go get some tools so I can strip that down. All right, so I'm going to back you up a little bit. So now these wires, like I said, I'm just going to cut them down. That's all. Right there. That's fine. We're going to strip them. Now, I've mentioned before, you can get those plier-looking things that strips the wire. I'm not a huge fan of them. I do use them occasionally, just not a huge fan of them. Just like that. This one, actually, these will cut. So there, I cut it. Like I said, does not matter what direction you go back. Let's see. So now you can see the wires are copper color, so that means that there's not any corrosion going up the wire, which is a good thing. So next step is, hang on one second, just preparing something here. All right, so the next step is we have these solderless butt connectors. I'm going to use these. These actually came in that kit. I don't know if you could see it. These actually have a seam. A seam in them. I usually prefer not to use ones with a seam, and actually I'm going to throw these out and not use them because I'd rather use ones without a seam. So hang on one second. Where's the pause button? Oh, right there. All right, so let me just see if I can move you a little bit. All right, so personal preference thing. So these are seamless. These are ones that I had. The other ones, like I said, came in the kit, but you can use them. It's not that detrimental. It's just a personal preference thing. Let's see. All right. So now, if you look, see in the jaw of the tool here how it has that pincher? That's what I like to use. So I know my hand is probably in the way. Let me move my hand. Got that one. Make sure you have the key off when you do stuff like this, because as you see, I'm touching this one. I don't want to short anything out by having a key on. Not that it would really make a difference because it's just a coolant temp sensor, but just get used to it doing it that way. This way, in case you're doing something that has, you know, a live wire or whatever in it, so you don't accidentally make a mistake. All right, so what's the next step? Do we put this on next? No, hang on a second. We're going to put marine heat shrink on there. Just like that. Okay, now we can put this connector end on. Same thing. Get in that same part of the jaw. And I usually try to line up my pinch points so they're in line with one another. There again, more a personal preference thing than anything else. Another reason for keeping the key off is, let's say you're doing something like this and you short the tool out on the ground of the engine. You know, you could really mess something up and you don't want to do that. Oh, see that the wire pulled out. Let's get the wire back in. Hello. There we go. Okay. Crimp. There we go. Done. No need for solder. No need for solder. I've told you a million times I never solder anything. The factory doesn't solder, so why should you? No reason to. Absolutely no reason to solder. The only time, and I mean the only time I ever solder wires, and yes I do, I know how to solder, but the only time I ever solder is if I had a connector where I had to save the connector and the wire broke coming out of the connector and I take the terminal out and I got to I have to attach the wire to the terminal that's in there, then I will solder it. Other than that, never solder. Ever, ever, ever. I don't care if they even tell me to solder, I still don't. And like I said, I have never had a problem with a comeback for wiring or anything like that, with a issue with something that I did because I didn't solder something. And I have seen issues where people have soldered and it's created a problem. So now the reason for using marine heat shrink is because it has glue in it. This repair will outlast this engine probably. Okay, perfect. So there we go, good to go. Ooh, that's hot. Now, unfortunately, I do not have, let's plug that in. Okay. Show you where we're at. Unfortunately, I do not have a scanner that will hook to this vehicle. I have a scanner that will, I don't have the adapter that will. All right, so there it is. Just lost like a tablespoon of fluid. I'm not overly concerned about it. And let's go ahead and let's start this bad boy up. Let me move my tools. Still got to route the wires. We haven't done that yet. We just want to get this thing up and running smoothly first, and then we'll do the fine things afterwards. Just want to move a few things. All right. This is throttle body injection. Those are two actual fuel injectors up inside that throttle body that spray down. A lot of cars nowadays have direct port injection or multi-port injection or whatever, but this thing, when I have it running, you should be able to see a spray in there. All right. It's a clean truck, nice truck. And hold on, gotta grab the keys here. Oh yeah. Tell you right off the bat, it's smoother. You saw the fuel spraying in. So, yes, it's amazing how a coolant temperature sensor can cause a tow-in, but the engine was flooded out, and we changed the oil too, because a lot of times on these older engines, well, you should do it on any engine really, the cylinders will wash with fuel, and the fuel will drop down inside the motor. It drops down inside the motor, contaminates the oil. So, contaminate the oil, you could wind up ruining your motor. Engine. Could wind up ruining your engine. Why is this coming out so dark? I don't know. Okay, there we go. All right, so I just wanted to show you that. Pretty simple repair. Really not a heck of a lot to it. Don't do it hot, because you want to be careful. If you're concerned that there might be pressure in the cooling system, always crack the cap, make sure you take out any pressure. This way you don't create a projectile out of that sensor. You go to loosen up, all of a sudden goes, and it shoots up. You don't want to do that, because hot coolant can kill you. So a lot of people don't realize that. Third degree burns, it can kill you. So just be mindful of it, be careful. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this one. I was trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to show you with this. I don't think so. I think that pretty much covered everything. All right. Hopefully you're getting something out of my videos. If you are, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.